The toxicity of emotions as a key Stoic teaching. Destructive emotions have the power to bring us down. They can distract us from the right path, the path that may lead us to our success. Toxicity is a negative vice in anybody's life. It's inevitable that by hosting toxicity, we're bringing ourselves bigger problems. So how did the Stoics teach themselves to avoid these toxic emotions? And what are the benefits of distinguishing these toxic emotions? The assumption that Stoicism is the repressing of all emotions is a misunderstanding. Bill Irvine, the writer of the Stoic Challenge, writes that the goal of the Stoics wasn't to banish emotion, but to minimize the number of negative emotions, such as feelings of frustration, anger, grief and envy, that they experienced. Similar to that of Epictetus, who writes, "You must completely control your desire and shift your avoidance to what lies within your reasoned choice. You must no longer feel anger, resentment, envy or regret." Concluding that we, as humans, as Stoics, must act and think with quality. Just like you wouldn't swallow poison, you shouldn't manifest it either. We must see the world as it is, live with acceptance and learn to cultivate virtue. Emotions become toxic when they begin to block us from seeing the world objectively and viewing it from the correct perspective. Emotions want us to wrap ourselves around them, make them the primary focus, and ultimately push us away from reason. Nassim Taleb stated that Stoicism is about the domestication of emotions, not their elimination. If we remain stable and level-headed, we can control our emotions, no matter how much external events may sway back or forth. Nothing can undo us. Anger, an example of negative emotion, is a query that most Stoics spent a lot of time questioning. Canatites, a Stoic advisor to the Emperor Augustus, taught him a practice that seemed valuable, stating that whenever you feel yourself getting angry, Caesar, he instructed, don't do or say anything until you've repeated the 24 letters of the alphabet to yourself, explaining that by taking time away from the impulse emotion can transform your perspective upon a situation. The best remedy for anger is time and distance, taking the moment to prioritize the future over the emotions. Seneca wrote, "If you want to determine the nature of anything, entrust it to time. When the sea is stormy, you can see nothing clearly." Aurelius wrote that gentleness and civility are much manlier and a more human response to upsetting circumstance than anger or any toxic emotion would ever be. Just like anger, desire as an emotion can be just as toxic. How do we see ourselves waiting around for that one thing to just magically happen in our lives? We sit, full of hope and begging for luck, that somehow that one thing will just suddenly appear in front of us. Instead of primarily running on desire as a way to remain afloat, we have to embrace self-reliance and begin to take responsibility for ourselves and finally take action. Give yourself the opportunity to become that luck that you were waiting to strike, and finally change your perspective on success. Aurelius, however, didn't completely write off desire, stating that nature of any kind thrives on forward progress, he wrote. And progress for a rational mind means not accepting falsehood or uncertainty in its perceptions, making unselfish actions its only aim, seeking and shunning only the things it has control over. We need motivation, of course, to reach our goals, but we mustn't rely single-handedly on desire to get there. Instead, we're advised to focus on deliberate action that persuades us to not only think of action, but physically make it happen. The Stoic word for correctly dealing with emotions is apatheia. Apatheia is the core of philosophy, defined to be a state of perfection in the absence of irrationality, or severity, meaning we are free from distractions and chaos. Apatheia is supposedly reached when you are in control, when you avoid letting your emotions take over. It's harder than it sounds. Not being distracted by the daily toll of emotions takes its toll on our ability to remain in control. Seneca's famous line of wisdom is that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, stating in itself we always remain in control. Inside our mindset, we control our judgment and reaction to the situation. If we offer free will to our negative emotions and thoughts, our judgment begins to turn on us. We become anxious, over-emotional, stressed, disabling our ability to move on with our life. Naturally, the emotions in life make us emotional, and the only way to cross this bridge is keeping these emotions in check, ensuring that we can remain steady. However, emotions themselves can be tools. They provide valuable information about the world and motivate us to act with dignity. But it's important to remember that emotions can also blind us when they influence us to act in ways which we may not have intended. We must learn to accept emotions for what they are and what influence they have in our life. One way in which we can learn to control them is the practice of premeditatio malorum. Premeditatio malorum is an exercise that dates back 2,000 years and sums up the premeditation of evils and troubles that may lie ahead. Envisioning the things that can go wrong help to prepare for life's inevitable setbacks. In life, not everything is going to go the way we want it. By psychologically preparing ourselves for life's unpredictable events, we teach ourselves to react in a more rational and reasonable way. I'm ready to face anything that happens, and I'm also ready to do the work necessary now to ensure I don't waste energy on problems that could have been solved in advance, says Seneca. Stepping back for even a minute to visualize and make assumptions allows us to curate our initial impression and offers us the chance to create a proper judgment. The key is not to manifest the original impulse, or we may risk experiencing anger or intense emotion. Of course, these feelings exist, but we cannot let them distract us from what we value in our lives. Instead of stunting yourself at the primary level of emotion or feeling, we should focus on stoic discipline and virtue, embrace reality and cultivate character, reduce negative emotions, and everything else will be an additional byproduct.